Bhagwan, Namaste.
Bhagwan.
Welcome, everyone. So as you can tell, Satyavani and I have our beads out, which is appropriate for today's topic of discussion. What is Japa meditation? So welcome to Tea and Take. Again,
Tea and Take.
Through the power of the interwebs. So I know
the interwebs.
Interwebs, yes.
I love the interwebs. Thank you, George W. Bush.
He was good for some things.
You know what? It's all good.
I still use strategery and slip it out as a word every now and again. So, well, let's talk about Japa meditation. So, I have done it in various forms over the years, and I also have some insights I want to share from more of the Christian tradition. But let's start with, if you were just asked by a client, you answer these questions really well. What is Japa? How would you describe it in the elevator pitch? And then we can take it from there.
Japa in the elevator pitch is the physical practice of meditation and facilitates mantra or chanting for the purposes of prayer as well as meditation in general. And let me just draw it back a little bit about why I think meditation, or rather Japa, is a really good practice in our American Western culture. So I often get clients and students who will say, I can't meditate. I can't sit. I can't drop my brain. You know, it's...
I've never heard that before. Ever.
Oh, no, never heard that one, right? So, and they just, they say, I can't, and I really want to get into this practice, and they can't turn off what I call in my Ayurveda world, the Vata brain, if you would. And so I actually say the best way to start meditating, rather than feeling like you have to sit with, an upright spine with eyes closed and focus on your breath, why don't you start out with Japa? And so we have the mala, 108 beads on it, and I will often recommend a chant. I will either recommend the Maha Mantra, which is the Hare Krishna mantra, or the mantra that we were given, Om Namo Bhagavate, the Guru mantra, and or whether it's the Ganesha mantra, or there's a variety of them out there, and use this as a counting tool. So every single time you chant the whole mantra, you touch a bead. And then you move to the next, and you move to the next. And what that does for folks that have difficulty in meditating is they can get the kinesthetic effect to also help calm the mind. Right. So they're focused on the mantra, but they're also moving their fingers. They can use it while they're walking, etc. And it also puts out this fantastic spiritual vibration that scientifically has been proven that when we chant a mantra, it stretches to the other end of the world, and someone there is receiving that gift. So there's an energetic and an ethereal aspect to it, but it also gives the mind something to focus on.
I like how you, sorry, finish.
No, I'm done.
No, I just like how you started very practically there, because the thing clients have told you about not being able to sit still, I've heard that more times than I care to count from clients and students. And so much of the work I do in dancing mindfulness is helping inspire people to meditate in more embodied ways. And this is just a very simple way to do that. And so much of what I love about it is the grounding element. Regardless of the quality of the bead you're using or what they're made of, there's that physical tactile sensation.
Yep.
And I think
it feels nice.
Yeah, and putting it very plainly, it gives you something to do that is not totally involved with the doing brain that we want to try to drop away from as much as possible. So we would often call that grounding, at least in clinical work. It gives you something to ground into while you do explore the possibilities of meditation. And these are the mala beads that Guru Dev gives out, one of our main teacher. And I love it because Bapaji Swami Kripalu was often seen wearing beads of this nature, and they have the seed quality.
Yes, they do.
Which for me always represents intention. And
they're Rudraksha beads, which is the seed of the Rudra tree, and are associated with Shiva, which is, we are a Shaivist
Lineage, yep.
lineage that is tantric as well.
Right.
So,
Seeds. Gotta love the seeds, because
I'm all about the seed.
yeah. Something I often teach, not original to me because it has strictly come from the Kripalu Amrit training, is that planting or setting an intention is about planting a seed, not forcing an outcome. And I think
exactly it.
Every time I practice Japa, especially
I love that.
seeds like this, it's like literally I'm connecting with the intention.
Absolutely. And it's also to take it from the practical level, so to speak, and moving it into the spiritual context. It brings you closer to the divine. You know, the mantra in and of itself has a meaning in it, and it has a vibration. And that's why we chant them in Sanskrit, because, as you know, the Sanskrit language has, it's a tonal and vibrational language.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sanskrit practice was, in whether it was in mantra or in chanting scriptures, has a very, very precise meter, and it was done in a group context. Mm-hmm. So that not only does the vibration build, but the authenticity of the mantra itself is maintained by coordinating with the group. And so that allows us to connect with not only the divine within ourselves, but the divine in however one decides they feel they connect in that fashion.
And for those of you who may be saying, oh, this practice sounds so Eastern and esoteric, I would really challenge you to consider, does it really? Especially if you may come from a more Catholic or even Eastern Orthodox tradition within Christianity. Think of what we do when we pray the rosary, which is still one of my favorite practices from Christianity that I do incorporate from time to time. And I've often loved praying rosaries in a group. Yes. That collective vibration. Again, I just think this is one of those cultural, religious, spiritual practices that are quite universal, and we could probably spend the bulk of an hour going through different.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in Islam,
and where things like this show. Yeah, talk about the Islam connection.
Yeah, well, in Islam, I actually, you know what? I have a set of prayer beads that were given to me from a beautiful friend and colleague who is a Muslim. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. You know, it's just, you know, we all want to, we often come at these kinds of spiritual traditions from, you know, my God is better than yours, or my practice is better than yours, or we don't do that practice, etc. And how you just brought it out, Pragya, is absolutely appropriate. Rosary beads, mala beads, prayer beads across traditions, whether it's Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, they all have this practice. And there is the practical part of it, the contact, the intention, and there is also the vibration and the connection with God. And so I think that if we really were to spend the better part of an hour diving in, we could go into, you know, chapter in verse, whether it is in the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, or the Quran, or any other, the Tao Te Ching, where these practices happen. And they do. And so they are universal. And that's what's beautiful about it.
Let's talk about the Guru Mantra that you referenced in our opening, because it is obviously my favorite. Not to say that I don't enjoy others and don't often meditate with others, but Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So what is the translation you have most heard on that? Just because I know a lot of people like to know what things mean.
Absolutely. So the translation for Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is actually, I bow to God Vasudev, right. or Krishna, mm-hmm. or Vishnu, however, you know, one wants to identify. And Vishnu or Krishna being the sustainer. Mm-hmm. So in the, quote, Hindu pantheon, and I use that lightly, we have Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the sustainer, and Shiva, the destroyer. And all of those three gods are directly linked to the three gunas that are part of the elements in life and our behaviors, if you would, our material nature, if you would. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya not only is the bowing to the sustaining of our existence, but it is also bowing to the sattvic quality that we want to cultivate inside of us. And Krishna, or Vishnu, being the God that sustains, grants grace, encourages the sattvic way of life, all of those things come together as a result of that particular prayer. And that actually, amongst many Hindu sects, and specifically those who are part of the Krishna consciousness movement, that mantra is chanted before any spiritual scriptures, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita or the Srila Bhagavatam, are actually ever read.
Cool. Makes sense. I know in a very simple context, Gurudev, when he's asked and put on the spot, it's "Thy will, not mine, be done," which
Right.
I just get chills when I think about that.
I love it.
Universality of what's so much of all this faith stuff that people know that I love.
Yep.
Whenever I see common areas of convergences, it's just absolutely amazing. And a little context, and maybe this is an episode topic for another episode, for a lot of my friends of a more Christian or Western variety who are saying, "Oh, there she goes talking about these Hindu gods again."
Sorry.
Did you know, fun fact, as the kids would say, that there is one God, even in the Hindu consciousness? It's that there's many manifestations and qualities, 30 up to 330 million. And yeah, because I was doing some reading here last week, and they said to call Hinduism a polytheistic religion is actually false.
It is false. It is false. And actually, I spend a lot of time with the Krishna consciousness movement, because I live in Boise and there's a temple here, and it's a great connection to maintain my my gyan practice, my knowledge seeking. And Krishna being the one God, if you would, and Shiva and Brahma and all of the other demigods, if you would, being servants to that. And so all of them have a purpose. It's kind of like, you know, having a president and then having ministers, if you would, that have certain tasks, if you would. And Shiva, as our lineage, being a tantric and a Shaivist tradition, is the ultimate servant to Krishna or to God. And so part of our practice in our lineage is this devotional service and the bhakti path. And so that's where, you know, those things come into play. So you're absolutely correct.
So yeah, all these paths, all these threads, all these manifestations in the same universal spirit. On my end of things, doing work with trauma and dissociation, so much of what I've written about is that we can think of the dissociative or the split mind as being a deficit, which if unchecked, it can be, or unhealed, it definitely can be. But a lot of the work that I've done on my own journey and with others in working to heal dissociation is to learn how to work with all the different parts as having something to say, all the different parts as having their own manifestations in this same oneness or same whole. And that's honestly a big reason why a lot of the Hindu teachings in my recovery have really helped me.
Completely understand. It's been an integral part of my own journey, so I appreciate that. But yay, Japa!
Yay, Japa, for helping us tap into that, giving us all these routes for tapping into that, however we may wish. For people who want to hear a chant of Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, one of my favorites is Krishna Das's version, who I adore anyway. He integrates it with the Sitaram chant. I know Deva Pramal has a beautiful, slower version of it. Do you have any others that you can think of off the top of your head if people want to listen to Om Namo?
Absolutely. And Deva Pramal actually has a couple different versions of it. She has an album called Mantras for Precarious Times.
Perfect.
And I know, it's perfect. And Om Namo is on there. And that album is actually specifically for doing japa.
Nice.
So when you choose that one on her album, she will go through the 108 rounds. So if people want something to listen to start to be able to articulate the Sanskrit, also see the meaning of it, and have something that they can use as part of their practice on a daily basis, I highly recommend that album.
And for those of you who are fascinated by this premise of working with beads, but learning Sanskrit or doing anything that is prayer-wise may seem too intimidating or too, like Chandrakant would say, if you have an allergic reaction to religious words. Let me just share with you this one story. So when I was still in active addiction, this would have been over 17 years ago, probably close to 20 years ago. Remember one night I was lying in my bed, high out of my mind, in this very deep suffering place. And there was a rosary sitting on the bedside. And I had prayed it in more lucid times, but in that moment of just depth and suffering, I remember picking it up and just with every bead saying, help me, help me, help me, from the depths of my soul. And even as I share the story, I have these chills because it is, I think it was one of the most honest prayers I ever made. And having the beads and just that intention of my heart helped me to connect. So if it's like, hey, God, listen up, or dude, suck, or, what the fuck is going on?
Right. Give me a sign, give me a sign, give me a sign.
I would say it's your intention met with your action that will align. That's just my feeling on it.
I love that. That's great. But, yeah, good stuff. Japa it's a great practice. I highly recommend it. And I think that if any of the listeners are interested and have questions about it, where to start, where to go, contact Pragya or myself, and we'll help guide you through to the best of our ability with the knowledge it is that we have from our own experience.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Oh my God. Until next time, Teen Tech, we love you.